morning, everybody. My name is Dave Hughes. I'm a faculty in the general surgery department. I'm going to talk about our experience with the Minute coaching system. How many people here have used this to evaluate, to give feedback to a student? So a lot of people in the room have seen this. We've had this since about 2015. We started it by trying to fix a problem we had in the surgical clerkship. So I'll tell you a little bit about how we created it, where we are now, and where we want to take it in the future. Dr. Reddy and Dr. Sandhu are also kind of co-workers in this system. So we have a problem in medical education. Right now, medical students really don't get enough feedback about their performance. Most of what they learn during the third and fourth year of medical school is learn taking care of patients or watching us take care of patients. They really have no way to improve and actually get some feedback performance about how they're doing. The faculty also have problems. We spend so much time in clinic, it's very hard to give students appropriate feedback. We also have problems evaluating students. We're asked to evaluate the students after a month on the clerkship. We often forget who the students were, how they performed. That time difference is very difficult for us. So we have a couple problems that we tried to fix with this Minute feedback system. So we created this in 2015. We created it mostly out of the fact that students ranked the surgical clerkship last amongst all the other clerkships in getting appropriate feedback about their performance. So the way the Minute coaching system works, the students get an email at the beginning of the rotation. This email includes a link that allows them to request feedback from any faculty or any student or any resident that they worked with during the day. At the end of the clinical day, they use this link. They fill this out and pick the resident or faculty who they worked with, and they ask for a specific thing they want feedback about in terms of their performance. Immediately, the faculty receive an email. That email takes them to this other survey, allows them to do 1 minute of free text feedback to the student about whatever the student is asking feedback for. The key is this takes just a minute. It's very close in time with their interaction with the student. It's very easy, and it gives the student extra feedback that they can't get normally. The other aspect of the system is that it collects all this feedback in a database. This database tracks how often the student asks for feedback, how often the faculty respond, and the content of that feedback. This database is really beneficial from a clerkship director standpoint. It allows us to track how students are doing. We can interact or intervene on students that are not doing well before the end of the rotation. It also helps us track faculty engagement. It also has allowed us to do some faculty development in terms of how to actually give students good feedback. This database has also been a nice research platform. It's allowed us to present our research at national forums about how students get feedback and how faculty give feedback to students. We presented this at national meetings, and now we have 7 papers based off this database. This is a very unique way to track feedback. Feedback is typically given in a verbal, face-to-face interaction, and this is not intended to replace that. This is just an adjunct and additive thing that we can do. So we started this to correct that problem with the clerkship. We started this with a pilot with students who had access to the Minute coaching system versus students who did not. And when we compared the two, it really fixed our problem with feedback. It also made the clerkship experience better overall. So since 2015, we've been using this system, and we found it to be very valuable for both the students and the faculty. For the students, they get more feedback. It's more timely. They have a chance to change before the end of the rotation. And overall, I think they'll be better doctors because they're getting more feedback. Faculty also benefit from this. We now send the feedback responses to the faculty at the end of the rotation. It helps them recall how the students performed, helps them to fill out evaluations, makes it easier to fill out those end of rotation evaluations. That way they have more time to spend on other things like patient care and academics. So looking at the stakeholders, the students and faculty seem to appreciate the Minute coaching system. The database feature of the Minute coaching system is really beneficial for the clerkship directors. It allows us to track student and faculty engagement. It also helps the medical school, which is often required to prove that medical students are actually getting appropriate feedback to the accreditation bodies like the LCGME. So the customer marketing would really market this minute coaching system to clerkship directors. Program directors could potentially use this. Residents need feedback just like medical students in terms of their performance taking care of patients. So what we would do is market this minute coaching system to clerkship directors around the country. During the presentations and national meetings, clerkship directors always come up to me and ask me for the minute coaching system. There's a couple problems with the way we have it set up now that prevents us from sharing it with clerkship directors, and I'll talk about that in a minute. If clerkship directors want this system, they have to convince the medical school to pay for this. Clerkship directors currently pay for similar online platforms for just educational content, things like WiseMD, which has modules that students work through, things like appendicitis or acute cholecystitis. So there is precedence there for clerkship directors to pay for things like this. The faculty will also benefit from it if they can get all those feedback responses for each student. It'd make those evaluations easier at the end of the month and probably better as well. So we've done some customer discovery. Like I said, the clerkship directors really want this system. When we presented this at national meetings, there's really nothing out there like this, and it's really something that can help clerkship directors solve a problem that they have, which is not getting enough feedback to students. We also presented this at some of the local meetings, and we won the Michigan Provost Teaching Innovation Award in 2016. That led to other schools like the nursing school, the pharmacy school, and even engineering asking to use this system. So our competitive landscape, right now there's nothing out there in medical education that serves a similar purpose as this. We've proven success at the University of Michigan over the past 3 years. Over the 3 years that we've used this, we now have over 10,000 feedback responses for 500 students that have rotated just through the surgical clerkship. It works, it's easy, and it seems to be continually functional over the past 3 years. In terms of intellectual property, because this is software, we can't patent this. We can't copyright the name, the Michigan Minute Coaching System. And overall, this is not going to make a lot of money like Mike's invention, but it can improve our academic notoriety across the nation. So our regulatory strategy, there is something called FERPA, which is basically protecting student information. And also this has to be appropriate with HIPAA. There's a potential that students or faculty could put in patient information into the system. And right now this is 100% compliant because it's password protected, and we limit who has access to the system by the clerkship director. So our business strategy is really national distribution of the minute coaching system, but it's only possible after we create a shareable prototype. Once we create the shareable prototype, we should be able to distribute it within the University of Michigan for some beta testing, and then distribute it nationally. Our idea is to give free initial use to schools, and then going forward after that, we charge a subscription cost to maintain the system. Our exit strategy is either to maintain management of the system within the University of Michigan to gain notoriety in academia. There's also a possibility to sell the rights to this to a medical education company, which would control it from then on. So what we really need is a shareable beta prototype at this point. Right now, the system is based off Qualtrics. Is really just a survey software. It's not made for that interaction and the back and forth between people asking for feedback and people giving feedback. It also is really limited to expand this to a large scale. For every student and faculty that uses the system, we have to manually input their name and email, and this requires a lot of work on the administrative end. So really, we got to get rid of Qualtrics to make this a viable product nationally and on a larger population. So right now our milestones, we created the prototype of the minute feedback system in 2015. We've been using it. It's been working well. We'll continue to use it at the University of Michigan until we create our beta prototype. With the help of the Surgical Innovation Prize, we can take it to the next step. Our next step is to develop a standalone software platform for the minute coaching system. I've got some estimates from local software companies. They can create a standalone system that can do everything the current system does and so much more that addresses our current problems. Our plan is to create this beta prototype over the next year, do some testing within the University of Michigan over 6 months, and then hopefully release a beta prototype nationally in about a year and a half. So this is kind of what I think the beta prototype would look like. The students will be able to request feedback just like they do now. They'd also be able to review their feedback history. They could look over the past 6 to 12 months, see if there's themes of things they're good at, things they're bad at. It allows them to search by name and department. There's even a potential for them to ask for feedback from people outside of the faculty. They could ask the nursing staff, they could ask scrub techs, potentially they could ask anybody they interact with during the day for feedback. The student view would look something like this. They'd have a log of all the feedback they've received. There'd be some opportunities to do some analytics on the back end to see if they have specific themes that they really need to work on. The faculty view would probably remain the same. I'd still like to maintain it as an email-based system so that the faculty get an email alert. It's very easy for them to do a one-line, 1-minute tidbit of feedback for the students. The clerkship director view would look something like this. They'd be able to monitor student performance throughout the rotation. They'd also be able to monitor faculty participation and feedback as well. From the administrative side of things, creating a new feedback platform would address the issue of manually entering every single new faculty that comes on board and allow us to do kind of batch onloading of that. So that's our plan. The mini coaching system has been pretty effective over the past year, but really to take it to the next step, we need that surgical innovation prize. So thank you to the Department of Surgery. I'm really excited about the next steps. Thanks.